Okay, you're up.
Hey, hello, we're on. Hi, Courtney. Hi, Malcolm. And welcome to Courtney on Health. Um, so, as I do my little intros each time, I'll continue that practice. We have been living through times that are far from normal, and it's been taking a toll on our bodies and our minds. Perhaps some foods that affect our mood can help put some pep in our step, some fire in our loins. So during this pandemic, questions arise as to how the macho in our men are affected and how many ladies have to reread 50 Shades of Grey to get those inner juices flowing. You see where this topic is going. So, are people getting in the mood with food? And if yes, what foods rev up our engines? Courtney will give us some answers and tips on what we can eat to improve our mental health, physical well being, and libido. There's a libido music we can move. But first, a stanza or two from a poem by Shel Silverstein, who seems to me my go to poet lately, and it's called Aphrodisiac. Again, that's a clue to this topic this week. So, now listen to me, folks. Hear what I say. You got to eat oysters every day. They'll put your love life back on track. They're nature's own aphrodisiac. Ooh, ooh, yes, it's true. What a little oyster can do for you. Ooh, oh, ain't it fun? Here's some things them oysters done. They made Jim Beam. They made Alan Thicke. They made
Ooh.
Jonathan Swift. And they made Gracie Slick. They made Victor mature and they made Tom Petty. They started Willie Whalen and they got Helen Reddy. They made Tom Cruise. They made Oscar Wilde. They gave Gary Hart, but they gave Gomer Pyle. They made William Hurt. They made Lucille Ball. They made Wilson Pickett, and that ain't all. Boy, Shel Silverstein has a mind that we don't even
Oh
know.
my goodness,
It- it-
I'm gonna blush over here,
and
Maxine.
that's not all of it. That's not all of it. It goes on three more stanzas.
Please.
So,
But
so
Max, in today's day and age, being part of the opposite side, I think I better almost leave the show to you two. Otherwise, I might get in trouble.
okay. Well, we're not going to let that happen because it's your birthday. So that's it. We're not kidding, folks. Malcolm's birthday today, and he's 28 again. So,
Happy,
28
happy.
again.
so happy birthday, and we're
Thank
doing
you.
it anyway. So,
20,
that's a
28 and talking about sex. I don't know.
Uh, well, that's okay. I know
You, you,
you must have been 8 when you started, but
Did you,
anyway.
did you realize in the olden days, if they had the same rules, I'd probably still be in jail?
Yes, I know.
Oh God. All right,
There's.
we need to bring this back to food, man.
Let's go. So, Courtney, let's start off by where your desires starts. What is the most important organ? And I bet it's not what most people think.
No, 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 it is not. So desire and intimacy does begin with the most important organ, that being, of course, your brain, right? So um, there are lots of things that we can eat, supplements that we'll talk about. This is not an exhaustive list today about those foods that have been looked at, studied, tried. When it comes to the topic of those things that will put you in the mood and increase your libido and increase your sex drive, there seems to be a limitless supply of different concepts and ideas. So what I've tried to do is really focus on those foods that are a little fun, like you mentioned, oysters, that have had just a long history of being associated with increased libido. Those that have some actually decent data about them, and then those supplements that have been looked at. So, let's start with, because it always comes back to food for me, yeah, about those foods that at least visually, some of the foods we hear about as it relates to, increasing drive are just visually appealing to the eye, right? So think about, or that they're either visually appealing, like a ripe red strawberry, right? So strawberries are that beautiful red, the color of love. When it comes to things like oysters, there are two things that are associated with it. If you think about some of the pictures of Aphrodite, historically, she's emerging from an oyster. So for those of you, and I'm sure everybody knows this, Aphrodite, she's the goddess of love and of romance. So she's emerging from these oysters. The oyster does look strikingly like a body part. We're going to try and really keep this sort of on the PG rated scale here. And it happens to be particularly high in zinc. Zinc, if you're not aware of this, is instrumental for the production of semen. So you can see how these things coupled together have led it to being at the top of the list of being an aphrodisiac. So, just the look of certain foods, look at, things like celery. People think, oh, celery, it's just like, it's a basic, vegetable. Bananas, asparagus. Now, granted, there are compounds inside each of these, fruits and vegetables, and we'll talk about those in a second. But visually, you can't get away from the fact that anatomically, they're very similar to certain, body parts. So some of the appeal of these aphrodisiacs is simply related to the fact of what they look like. So that's a little bit of history there. Things like figs not only have a really good amount of amino acids, which have been strongly related to increased strength, increased stamina, but they also, again, visually look like a body part. So there's that 1-2 picture that we have with when it comes to things like figs. Bananas, potassium is, again, many people know this, but potassium is jam-packed inside bananas, and we know that potassium is critical for muscle strength. So there's the association there with bananas. Back to our celery. There are compounds in celery called phytoandrogens, which seem to stimulate testosterone, help or are important for testosterone production. So when you look back at some of the studies that look at these vegetables, again, not only just the picture of what they look like, but some of the compounds, the micronutrients that are found inside there that are linked to production of certain either vitamins or minerals, phytochemicals, or in the case of the figs, amino acids, which are just a small breakdown of proteins.
Yeah, Courtney, do you realize you're going to get the men in our audience, also the women in our audience, to become healthy eaters, not because of the health, but because of other reasons that you previously said.
So funny you say that, Malcolm, because whilst I was getting ready for this particular topic this week, I said, you know what? I've been doing this for a long time. And it's been, sometimes it's a struggle to get people to eat vegetables and fruits, all of these compounds that are phytochemicals and all of these things, not, decreases your chances of diabetes, helps you lose weight, decreases your cardiovascular risk. None of that. This might drive people to increase their fruit and vegetables.
Not important.
It's all good. I don't care how you get there.
Right. Celery. I wasn't thinking of celery. It wasn't something in my mind that I was thinking about in this particular category or topic.
I know.
I was more into the strawberries, but with maybe the chocolate on top or something,
Well, chocolate, absolutely. And we've talked about chocolate a lot on this show for particularly the dark chocolate, the one that's greater than 65% cacao or 70% cacao. The compounds that are in there, not only for cardiovascular disease, but they seem to be very protective. And let's face it, chocolate in the mouth feel is great. It smells good. So again, it's one of those foods that visually is very sexy, right? I mean, dark chocolate, melted chocolate, chocolate on strawberries. It's got this sex appeal to it. But there's actually a compound in there called phenylethylamine, which has been linked to possibly being helping with libido. So one more reason to choose your dark chocolate. Watermelon, I couldn't find watermelon in the grocery store. It's not watermelon season here, but there's a compound in there called citrulline, which increases blood flow. So if you're looking at anything, and again, I'm going to try and really keep this PG rated here, these compounds we're talking about, where it increases blood flow throughout the body, and this is for men and for women, it's going to be linked to helping with first of all, potentially greater stamina for the men, and for women, greater pleasure on the other side. So leads us into our chili peppers. Now, a caution with the chili peppers, okay? So if you're going to touch the chili peppers, you want to make sure you're going to wash your hands before you go any further down that road into your evening. But capsaicin, which is one of the active compounds in our chili peppers, is a potent compound when it comes to increasing bodily sensations and when it comes to increasing blood flow. So that's the link when it comes to really anything, not just chili peppers, but any of those peppers that've got that high amount of that capsaicin in it. Wash your hands after you touch chili peppers.
Been there, done that. But you know what I'm thinking of as you're talking, and they've done it in thousands of movies, is the pleasure that certain people, when they're eating, and they have certain, they eat something that has a certain taste,
yeah,
that they like. You see the pleasure on their face, and this in so many movies are connected to sexuality, of a guy having dinner with his date or his wife, and them eating, and that's, you look at them and they could be doing something else.
Absolutely, but you see how it really does come back to what's going on in your brain. And I will tell you that a handful of the studies that have looked at the compounds we're talking about today have been done in, and I'm not sure why they started with individuals who are on antidepressants, maybe because we do know that desire does begin in the brain. So you're right, Malcolm. So if you're in a better space in your mind, and you're more comfortable and you're happier, then you might be more willing to embrace everything that's going on in your world, including sex. So again, it's hard to really tease out exactly what it is in these compounds, but sometimes they're really able to link it back to not just that compound and like things like blood flow, but your mood that's associated.
One other interjection. You guys have probably saw that famous scene when Harry met Sally.
Right, absolutely.
And they're in the deli, and it's Rob Reiner's mother.
Right.
The way Meg Ryan fakes an orgasm at the table. And then the waiter goes over to Rob Reiner's mother and says, "What would you like?" And she said, "I'll have the same thing she has."
Yeah. I'll have what she's having.
Yeah.
I think that was the line, but
okay, could be.
Could it have been the pastrami, Courtney?
Well, I didn't come across pastrami as being an aphrodisiac, but again, like I said, this is not an exhaustive list, so maybe it's in there.
Sour pickle, maybe.
Maybe. But saffron is. Saffron happens to be, first of all, it's very expensive for anybody who cooks with saffron. The saffron threads, mostly because it's it's an expensive process to cultivate. But when it comes to either food source or supplement that's actually got some meat to the data behind it, saffron happens to be one of them. Now, I realize that saffron is going to be flying off the shelves now, like once people see that. Most of these studies, as I mentioned, have been done in individuals, who are taking antidepressants. The studies seem to indicate that in men, it's helping with erectile function, and in women, it serves as a lubricant. So again, it's very expensive as a food source. An option might be to consider it in a supplement source. Now, whenever it comes to anything in a supplement form, we always have to encourage everybody to consult their healthcare provider. It's important to do so because if it's having a physiologic response in your body, that means it could be affecting everything. So you want to make sure that you're not just throwing back supplements, even if they do have some decent data behind them, without letting your healthcare provider know. So speaking of other supplements, have you guys heard of fenugreek extract?
I've heard of fenugreek, but I haven't ever thought about extract. No.
So it happens to be one of the supplements. Again, it's got some, I will say that there's not a tremendous amount of consistent research that suggests that any of these that we're going to talk about are going to put you over the edge, and take that however you want to. But we do know that it is a very strong anti-inflammatory agent. And the studies seem to indicate, and this has been done in lab rats, and it's also been done in humans, which is important. we are not rats, obviously. It does seem to increase libido in both men and women. It contains compounds that are used to making our sex hormones, so both estrogen and testosterone. So that's the connection when it comes to fenugreek. Maca, M-A-C-A. It's not a root vegetable. It is a root vegetable. It's just not one we see in the United States all that much. It happens to be one of the another one of the supplements that's got some data behind it that seems to indicate, again, once again, increased libido, increased sex drive, and increased response. So it's known as the Peruvian Viagra, if that's helpful at all. Similar action as we know Viagra. So that's where we know it's, again, it's typically in the United States, you're not going to find it in your veggie section. You're going to find it in the supplement section, either in a powdered form, so powdered extract, or you're going to find it in, powdered form or in a liquid extract form. So that would be the way to find that. And then lastly, ginkgo biloba, which has been around for a while. Most people think of ginkgo biloba as it's being helpful for improving your memory. Which is where a bulk of the research has been. However, linking back to our original, thought and understanding of desire and sex and appreciating it really stemming from the brain. If your head is in a better space, your brain's in a better space, then you're going to just be more open to, different experiences. So although not directly related to increase in, let's say, erectile function, it has been known to help with improving blood flow and helping relax blood vessels. So all of this sort of stems back to, again, better blood flow, better relaxation, which is why some of the foods that are high in magnesium that you see here are so popular and may be linked to better desire, is that they really help with relaxation. And if you're calmer and you're more relaxed, again, you might be having a better experience. So not in a complete list of the foods that we've known as being aphrodisiacs, but these are at the top of the list. They might be the easiest to find, certainly, but I would encourage you, again, talk with your healthcare provider, see if these are options for you. Always start with foods first. All of these are foods that should be and could be consumed in greater amounts, not just because of their relationship with being an aphrodisiac, but also because they're helpful for your overall health.
Yeah, but that's to take second place to certain people.
It does.
They're healthy. Well, that's okay. I don't mind if they're healthy, but
yeah. Well, what about like alcohol or wine, or, champagne, any of those have similar effects, or is it just because it's working on the brain at some point,
Right.
obviously. So
it's a slippery slope, and I didn't mean that as some sort of bad comment today.
A lot of puns today.
When
Okay.
it comes to alcohol, little bit goes a long way. So we know that a small amount, and I know that's typically champagne. Remember, champagne's your romance, right? A glass of wine is your romance drink. A small amount certainly helps with relaxation. And we know that in many people, it reduces inhibitions. So if it's doing that, then it's helpful, and it may lead to a more pleasurable experience, certainly. The problem with alcohol is it could swing the opposite way. And once you've had too much, it deadens your response, it deadens your sensations, and that's not going to help with any kind of experience you're having. So a little bit, if you're somebody who does drink, certainly, but you really don't want to drink to excess.
Going back to poetry, what was it, Omar Khayyam? A loaf of bread, a glass of wine, and thou beside me in the still waters.
Yeah, that was.
But I don't know if it's true or not, but when he said thou beside me in the still waters, thou was another guy's name.
That was another guy's name?
That had a totally different meaning.
Oh man, yeah, we're off on a different tangent here. Just also a quick question about like coffee and caffeine. Are they bad, good? Do they, Do people go to Starbucks more for a reason now or something? I mean,
No, I mean, listen, unless there's some reason why you've been told not to have caffeine, again, coffee happens to be one of those compounds, whether you're finding it in tea or whether you're finding it in coffee, that seems to have very strong health benefits to it. Included in that mix would be, let's face it, it's a stimulant. So it's going to pick you up a little bit. So if it's picking it up a little bit and it's going to, help with, blood flow, then it's all of a good response. So you want to have stamina, you want to have, energy to participate in obviously sexual activity. Clearly caffeinated beverages, or foods for that matter, are going to fit that bill.
what about yoga or meditation? Is there, because again, the brain, I don't know if that would put you in the mood or just relax you and put you to sleep. I mean, is there any correlation on that at all?
I think that if you really delved into, think about the age, first of all of these things we're talking about today are there. For centuries they've been looked at, many of these foods. So, even our, the pistachio nuts have been around since, 6,000 BC. So yoga is an old, mind, body, physical experience. And the stronger your mind and your body, the better the experience. So I think that there's a decent amount of data, although I don't know it off the top of my head, that would support yoga. But you just have to, do you really need to see the research? The reality is it's a very much mind, body centered activity, and so is sex. So one will make you stronger. And then, I keep thinking of Sting. Every time I think of yoga, and I've heard some stories about Sting, and, he's been a yoga practicer forever. And I think the stories of his prowess are somewhat legendary. So.
Yes, it's those tantric positions in naked yoga.
Yeah,
that's Sting has a rep on that. And I know there's naked yoga, they have that. And it's, I guess, you can go from one thing to the other, but I guess
this is a
too much to cover.
This is a PG-13 show, so
yeah, I guess
if I said something about that, then you'd both get on me. So
no, I wouldn't. But people know that. I'm not going to say.
I was simply commenting on the element of yoga being instrumental in the process of being more in touch with your body on a daily basis and sexually. That's all I'm saying.
Did you realize we could have a whole new 13-week series just on this topic?
It's very possible. But that's a whole other thing to cover. So any other comments to make, Courtney, before we kind of sign off, or is there more information?
Yeah, we were having a lot of fun today, and let's face it, people are intimidated about talking about sex, myself included. I'll be perfectly honest with you. This is the first time I've ever done a topic specifically related to aphrodisiacs, but the more comfort you have with it, the better, the better the experience. I think the more opportunities of encouragement that people have to eat better, the better it is. And I wasn't kidding, and Malcolm brought this up. Whatever gets people to eat healthier foods, more vegetables, more plant-based foods, more fruits, healthier foods, and embrace a healthier lifestyle, I'm all for. So try them, see how it goes, put a comment. We always like comments. So you can go to the Courtney on Health Facebook page and put your comments there. If you feel comfortable sharing or asking a question, we'd love to hear it.
That'd be great, because we didn't touch on this because, again, it's a whole other topic, but music, also brings people together. And, an older song from, I don't know if it's the 40s, I'm in the mood for love. And the lyric is, I'm in the mood for love simply because you're near me. Funny, but when you're near me, I'm in the mood for love. So if you bring some chocolate and oysters with the person, I'm sure it'll go further than that. And I thank you for giving us these tips.
Roses, another song, Roses and Lollipops.
Right. There's a lot of beautiful songs out there and a lot of music that would bring, we were talking about Al Green and Barry White, another great duo that can help you out there. So for more shows, I mean, Courtney gave the information. The Instagram is at CLG Wellness. Catch more shows on malcolmpresents.com and the Many Shades of Green. Tweet us your thoughts at TM Shades of Green. And we hope to see you next time.
We'll see you next week.
Bye. This is
Eat your
it.
celery.
Eat your celery. Eat your veggies. No.
Actually, all those foods that you suggested, I love.
So there you go.
Yeah. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.